Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of the Mastering Retention Podcast. I'm Tom Hammond, co-founder of UserWise and your host today. Today, I'm just super excited. I don't get to have a lot of founders and CEOs on with me, so it's super fun. We have Andrey Korotkov from Zillion Whales with us. You might know them for their Mushroom Wars series. Andrey, we got so much fun stuff we get to talk about today, including starting a company, acquisitions, all sorts of great stuff. But before we dive into everything, I always like to start with, what's your story? How'd you get into games? How'd you get to where you are today?
Well, yeah, it's maybe pretty common, maybe not, but I started to love games since I got NES. Or in Russia, it was called Dendy, but basically it's Nintendo Entertainment System, the first generation. When I was in the primary school, like 6, 7 ages old, I don't remember exactly. But once I get my hands on this console, I started to think that, well, okay, I definitely want to create games, and I like games so much, but it might be super difficult to make games, and I have absolutely no idea how to make games.
Yeah,
definitely very smart people are behind this stuff, kind of, and this is how it's all started. And a little bit later, around 10 years, maybe 11 years, so like 4 years later, or 5 years later, somehow I got myself a ZX Spectrum computer. It was not even Russia, I would say. It was a USSR replica of something like how it's originally called, I don't remember, Sinclair or something like this. So this ZX Spectrum was able to interpret basic code. And I was thinking, well, okay, I can be one step closer to making games right now. Unfortunately, in early 90s, or maybe middle 90s, I don't remember exactly, in Russia, it was a huge crisis. So having a PC was unachievable for most of people. Mm-hmm. So the device I got, the Spectrum, was like the only thing could be possible. And as far as I remember, it was already stopped of production and all this stuff, like maybe 8 years ago, because it was pretty ancient technology. But this is what I got, and the only thing I was able to find to study the programming was also an ancient book of late 80s about BASIC, and having this book around and this ZX Spectrum sort of PC, I started to program and make my first games, and later when I was already near finishing school or something like this, finally I got the computer, and I think, okay, now I can do something real. First of all, once I get the computer, first year I only played games and did nothing else. But once I get a little bit satisfied with the games, I started to write my own. And first of all, I tried Visual Basic because I think I knew Basic, but Visual Basic doesn't satisfy me. And I found the interpretation of Quake 3. It was the game called Need for Kill. I don't know if you ever heard about it.
Oh yeah,
you heard? Really?
Of course.
Yeah. And this game was a Quake 3 in 2D, and the developer of this game lived in Moscow. And on forum, I got news from him that he used Delphi to program this game, and that's why I started to think that's okay, Delphi might be cool. So I found some pretty old version of Delphi and started to make games on Delphi. Created first game engine like based on OpenGL, and started to work on my first game. And the idea of the game was to combine Crimson Land, pretty famous game still, I think, and Diablo 2, that is obviously a well-known game. So that's how I created my first game. I spent like 2+ years working on it with some. Mostly I stole visual assets from other games, but I found an artist who helped me to work them the way at least they are not this so much recognizable. And when I go to university, I was like near 18 years. And exactly, and this year I finished this game, and I've managed to have a deal with a publisher who purchased this game and uploaded it to the free game portal. And this is how I earned my first $1,000. And at that moment, I started to think, okay, this might be a way how I can live making games and all this stuff. And I was super impressed. Then back at those days, there were no such name as indie developer, and it hadn't been sort of mainstream like now. So and the only possibility to earn on games in internet was like casual games published on some website. This is how when the Zuma appeared, some Arkanoid clones appeared, and all such games. And I made game all day during whole my study in university for next few years. And I wrote, I moved to C++. In university, obviously, we studied C++ as I entered the software engineering specialty there. So I was taught some good stuff in development, and I wrote my 3D engine that is kind of still alive, by the way, and not still, but the last commercial game on it released maybe 7 or 8 years ago. But at least in university I made the engine that was capable for commercial games, and I made several games that I was able to publish and earn some money. And when I graduated, I was thinking about a business, and with some students right after graduation, we created a company. This company was like planned and to create some big PC games or something like this, but none of us back at those time had no idea how to make big games. And as back at those days on indie games, it was near impossible to earn significant money. So you need to make like a release on a CD with like a lot of content and all this stuff. And we really didn't have any idea how to do it. We started to do outsourced work with 3D graphics and something like this. We made everything on our in-game, our homemade, homebrew, I would say, engine. And for 8 years, while this company existed, we didn't make any game, but we did a lot of outsourced stuff and earned enough money. And only after that, I moved from the small city in Siberia to St. Petersburg and started to work in game development company. And later, we managed to have our own company that is now Zillion Whales. Keeping the long story short, this is how basically it is. And in Zillion Whales, with the other guys who already knew how to make games, and we obviously entered already an era of mobile games. We started to work on different games, and we made, I don't know exactly, but maybe 5-6 games. But the Mushroom Wars was the best among them. Original Mushroom Wars was released on PlayStation 3, so it was in 2009. And when the mobile era came, we wanted to be at the edge and to make mobile games. And Mushroom Wars was the only game that suits well the mobile screen and the controls scheme and all this stuff. That's it. We start to work more on Mushroom Wars, and the first attempt to make Mushroom Wars a free-to-play game was not very successful. It was not a complete failure, but still. We found investment.
Before we dive into that too much, for people that aren't familiar with Mushroom Wars, what kind of game is it? How does it play? Just for a high level overview.
Maybe somebody heard about game from ZX Spectrum era. So it's called Galcon. It's still in some sort of its reincarnation is still available on Steam. You can find Galcon game. So the initial idea of Mushroom Wars, basically there were two ideas. The idea number one was the mechanics of Galcon is awesome. It's the simplified version of real-time strategy where you have only one resource. It's like your troops. You use troops to build or evolve. You use troops to attack. You use troops to defend. So basically, the very, very simplified strategy. Also without any possibility to build a base the way you building a base a way you want it to do, but you have pre-designed special points on the map where you can do something. And we wanted to add some love to this core gameplay and to evolve this. And we add a visual style. We add some unexpected setting with all these mushrooms and all this stuff. And we evolved the gameplay itself a little bit, adding a possibility to of different type of buildings to convert and to upgrade them. And another big thing was that on PlayStation 3 in 2009, or maybe 2008, the PlayStation Store, I don't remember, PlayStation, PSN, PlayStation Network itself, and then PlayStation Store for digital games was yet born a year ago or so. And there was a space for small downloadable games. And on one hand, and on the other hand, there was no any strategy games at all. So we thought, okay, so we might finally have some small game on the market that could earn enough money on one hand. On another hand, we can bring a real-time strategy game that the genre is not presented almost at all on the consoles, and we can give it a try. And it was possible because the whole gameplay could fit the single screen, and for console and for mobile as well, by the way, it's essential that you don't need to scroll the screen. When everything fits the single screen, to control it's much easier. And we spent with the original team of Mushroom Wars. Unfortunately, none of those developers are with us right now, but back in 2009, we spent a lot of time with the original team to manage how to make it playable from a gamepad. There are a lot of tricky solution and hacks to make it feel native, to add feedback to the player, and that's it. That's it. How it came to PlayStation 3. The game was very successful, and the year after, when we added multiplayer, it really became a hit and got in PlayStation Plus. So it was a free game for like some month. Nice. For PlayStation, and this is how we got like millions of players, and the brand got it recognition. Yeah, as I said, a year later we decided to bring this to mobile. The brand already got its recognition, and it helped on mobile, obviously, but we were unable to do like profitable free-to-play model, but it was like the early age of free-to-play games. Mm-hmm. That we successfully did with Mushrooms 2 later. So yeah, I think this is the answer for a question. If you don't want me to dive deep into Mushroom Wars 2 and all this stuff, and the game itself, yeah, it's simplified real-time strategy game. I think everyone could Google Mushroom Wars and find screenshots from the original game and the sequel that is live right now.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, let's dive into a few just more high-level things before we get down to the nitty-gritty details. So I have this belief, and I'm pretty sure that I'm right, that just about everyone that works in gaming kind of has this secret dream of someday kind of running their own studio and having full creative aptitude to be able to create whatever they want, whenever they want. I'm curious, like, what's your take on how to go about starting a studio? Like, what would be the first, like, if we had to start a new studio today, like, what would be the first thing that you would do?
Okay. Well, I can a little bit disagree that there are a lot of people I know that don't want to dive in all these problems and pain with owning a studio. And a lot of them just want to be part of something bigger. I write a few lines of code of Red Dead Redemption 2. It's not a bad thing, you know. So there are a lot, but obviously there are a lot of people who want to make their own project. Basically, this is what drives me through all of this from the very beginning to make my own games and have influence on this. Right now, I think on one hand, it's much simpler to start a company and start a gaming business, but on another hand, there are much more obstacles, not maybe obstacles, but requirements that you need to satisfy to be more or less successful. Basically, if you're like working in a game development studio, or at least in any IT company, you are like one step away from making a game development company, because the basic thing is the understanding of how software products are being made. Mm-hmm. And if you got the idea how you can manage to from like the few images and few lines of code bring complete product, not exactly the game, but some sort, any complete product to final user. It could be mobile application, it could be even a well-done website or something like this. So you already halfway there. The second thing is to find a good company of people who will share your ideas and could help bring them in front of a big audience. Right now, it's pretty easy as well, because there are a lot of conferences all around the globe. And if you don't want to go to conference, you can go to any game jam or even Reddit thread or whatever. to find like artists, to find like another developer or game designer, maybe. But if you want to do a company, basically you need at least to be to combine almost everything inside you. You might be able to like create super cool visual images, but you definitely should be able to grab some sprites from internet and to make these sprites alive in your game. Even if you don't understand how to program games, still you should be able to open whatever like Game Maker, Unity or something, and to build a level inside this. And you should understand how all these things are combined. And even, well, I know a lot of artists, by the way, who can program at least small games. Maybe even with visual development blocks, not with the code writing itself. So this is the second part. You need to understand how to make it, and you need a company of people who can share your ideas. When I started to work on games like 20 plus, I don't know, like years ago, so let's say in late 90s or early like 2001 maybe. The problem was that I was unable to find artists. It was a huge problem. So there are I was within community of developers, and back those days, developers kind of, they have their own parties, and the artists had their own parties, obviously. And they never met. So there were a lot of developers who were unable to find any artists to support their ideas and to make a game. And on the other hand, later, I found that there are a lot of artists with a lot of ideas and artworks, and they can't find any developer who could make a game based on their art. Right now, there is no such problem, and this is a good thing, basically. The internet developed a lot since that time. Basically, this is the two most important things you need, because the step number 3 is like creating a good prototype of the game, a good game. You should be able to do it like on weekends or whatever, on your free time every evening. And if this group of people have enough passion to make this game playable and to present it on any games jam, or just like to build an MVP of this game, this already could be enough to go and show this game to investors who could bootstrap them to go further. The only thing you need to know, like before starting making the game, you obviously need to understand the marketing perspective. And if you like making a game for Steam, you need to understand which publishers, investors you will go, and what niche on the market this game should target. For free-to-play, this is much more complicated. That's why, like, for first steps, I suggest to do like some Steam game or something like this, because anyway, it's pretty hard to make the first game not even successful, but just to look fine and play fine enough to be interesting for any publisher. And only after this step, if you be able to publish your first game, you might think about like free-to-play games, so making something bigger. This is what I think about this.
That's great. Okay, so at one point in time, I was reflecting back on like when I was learning how to code. One of the first languages that I learned was Ruby on Rails. Very developer friendly. I wanted to learn how to like build a website or whatnot. And I remember when I was like going through a tutorial of it. Now, Ruby and Rails, they have a lot of these gems that you can basically write open source code to do some sort of action, and you can like import in these gems, and they streamline, save you a lot of time. One of the most popular ones is called Devise, which basically is user authentication. Now, it's probably a better user authentication system than just about anyone can do because, you know, it's been maintained by thousands of developers for the last, 10 or whatever years, really solid. But the tutorial was like, okay, well, you're probably going to want to use Devise on all of your production, projects because it's going to be a good system. But it still makes sense for us to actually go through the process of rolling our own user authentication system, just so you can get the high level understanding of like how it works and why these things work in there. Something that you've done that I haven't really met too many people to do is like you actually built your own game engine, back in the day when you started making games. Now it sounds like maybe you use Unity or Unreal or whatever, but do you think that exercise of actually going through and building a game engine, even if it's like a basic, crappier version than Unity or Unreal, actually like helped you to better understand what's going on and made you a better game developer? Or is that just a waste of time and you should just use Unity?
Well, it depends on your goal. So back at those days, I made engine because there was no Unity or any other solution. There was monstrous, huge, and I would say ugly technologies like Ogre 3D. Maybe you remember something like this. Still, it's pretty complicated to use such technologies, I guess. For me, it was like trying to achieve the goal of making a portable, lightweight technology that could be used like in my own project and others' project. But Unity basically killed them all when it starts to growing rapidly. And the only profit I got from understanding how all this is working on the very, very low level is the deep understanding of the 3D graphics and how the graphic is rendering and how the memory management is working and all this stuff. But on one hand, it's good to understand these things, but on the other hand, the technologies are evolving so much that this knowledge would become irrelevant very fast. For instance, well, I wrote my engine using OpenGL, and shaders only appeared like back at those days. They like you need to use assembler to write shaders. But well, the pillars of the graphics they are still the same. It's true. But right now, for example, to make games using Vulkan or like Metal or DirectX 12, it's really a different story, and all the knowledge I got making games on like OpenGL, not exactly worthless, but doesn't value a lot right now. So basically, you don't need to write yourself such complicated low-level things, but still is very, very important to understand the pillars on which these technologies are built on. In our company, we hire a lot of like C# developers for Unity for the recent years, and I often visit these interviews, and I can say that the quality, the average quality of software engineers in Unity is very low. And the problem is because they are used to use all these components that are already done for them. They used to work on the high level. So for instance, they use matrix transformation, but they have no idea what matrix is itself, why matrices in 3D graphics have 4 rows and 4 columns, not 3 rows and 3 columns. Like how the perspective divide is done, how like this projection, how the triangles are being filled with textures in the end. Well, if you're making simple game, you really don't need to know all this stuff, basically. But if someday you want to make something more complex, or you want to have some like benefits when you will try to find a new job, This is basically matters. So in case you just want to make fun games for like yourself, like typical indie games or kind of, more likely you don't need to dive such deep and to understand all this stuff. But if you want to end up maybe in Epic Games, working on some AAA games, not exactly Epic game. If like your dream is work on the next God of War or like Horizon Zero Dawn or something like this, you'll never get this job without understanding these pillars. And the best way to understand these pillars is to do something like yourself. So
that's great feedback. Okay, talk to me a little bit about co-founders within like a studio. Like, would you look for co-founders, and if so, like what sort of skill sets would you want each co-founder to kind of have?
I think there are general rules that I heard from various people, is that, okay, if you're starting a gaming company, you should have all the main domains closed by reliable people. By the main domains, I mean definitely it's game design, it's art design, art visualization, and it's software engineering. So basically there is 3 of them. So if you want to be successful, you need cool CTO, you need cool art director, and you need cool creative director. So if you are starting to make a company, and these people, more likely, they will be employed already and have good salaries, or at least they have their own ambitions about something. And this is, on one hand, it's bad, on the other hand, it's good. So what you need to do, you need to have them as co-founders. This is how you, on one hand, save these main domains. They will be covered by the experienced people. On another hand, they will be motivated enough, because maybe finally they can work on the project on their own project with their own ideas. On another hand, they will understand with that all their efforts in the future will return with, I don't know, after the company acquisition, or even just if the product will be successful enough, they will get their share of the success.
Yeah.
But another rule is not to have more than 3 co-founders, because even if there are 2 co-founders, really already politics starts. If you have 3, you definitely have some politics. But if you have 4, 5, 6, you can spend like ages arguing with each other and trying to come to a solution that everyone will be okay.
Now, you've gone through the actual acquisition process and stuff. Now, I'm a big fan whenever I'm talking to people about, that want to start a company and they want to just get going and stuff, is how do I outline it? Well, let's say you meet a pretty young lass and you think that you might want to marry her. It's probably in your best interest to go through the time of, making sure you understand her religious views and her political views and all those like deep conversations that might be a little bit uncomfortable, but just to make sure that you guys are actually like a match. I kind of say you probably want to do the same thing with co-founders, because even as simple as, let's say your company is doing really great right now, and someone comes in and offers you $30 million or $50 million for your business or something like that. One co-founder over here, that might be life-changing money. I want to take it, absolutely. Another one on this side might be, well, I want to actually push for that $1 billion exit. And if you haven't had those conversations around expectations and like, hey, once we do X, Y, Z, like this is where I want to be. I've actually seen companies that are, honestly, like doing the most amazing that they've ever done suddenly fall apart because the co-founders have some big argument over, something like that. So I always kind of say, I think it's important to have those sort of, religious or political conversations and agreements before you actually form the company, get married, so to speak, et cetera. So I'm curious, like, what's your take on stuff like that?
You mean in case of the company acquisition, or in case like?
Well, I think an acquisition could be something that could trigger it, but on the flip side, there could be something like maybe the company's not doing really great right now or whatnot. And, if you're not in agreement of what we're going to do when this thing potentially happens, or something of realm of this, like I've just seen so many disagreements lead to co-founders ultimately splitting up. It's probably a reason why we see a lot of, bands that make really great music, split up after they have like a really great CD with sudden success or whatnot too.
Well, it's like a pretty tough question, and it's really kind of rhetorical. I don't think there is ever, and it could be a correct answer to it, obviously. Like from my perspective, like we spent, for example, almost 10 years on this company, and we see how we like evolved during this period. Yeah, the company grew and everything is okay, but we understand that maybe we can't grow faster, and maybe this is like we are near our ceiling, and we like we're in a situation considering what the next step could be. And in this case, trying to search a partner who is like experienced and huge might be a good solution, because first of all, you can monetize the success you already have. That is not bad itself. And on another hand, you still, for us, by the way, we still left 9% of the company between the co-founders. Not 19% of the company between the co-founders. So we didn't sell everything. And so basically we monetize the part of our previous success, and we still have something we can monetize in future. But we believe that with a bigger partner, our future could be much brighter. And for instance, if you have like, it's kind of the similar thing. If you have like 100% of like, let's say, $1 million of valuation company, or you could have like 10%, but of $10 million valuation company. Basically, it like doesn't matter this much. But if you have 1 million valuation company, it would be, and you are the only one there, it could be much harder, or even might be impossible to get valuation of 10 million, let's say so. But if you're like a small part of something bigger, and like even maybe your valuation could be combined or something like this, then in future the valuation could be like not even 10 but 20 or 30 times higher. So you're like the rest of this 10% or something like this could bring you much more money in the future. So this could be even this like future wise, but it really depends from case to case, and has a lot of various options. Obviously, inside the company we have argues and we discussed what might be done. For us also, it was like an option that we got sharehold with the Russian-based company, and after what happens in February, it's not good, obviously. So we wanted to get rid of this sharehold of Russian-based company, and as our company like is London-based, so we wanted to be free of these connections with Russia in current situation. And this deal also helped us to do this. So this is like the matter of a lot of things you need to consider.
Yeah. Okay. I have one more topic that I'd like to cover before we end, and we're getting low on time here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this is something I see a lot of people struggle with. What's your process, or like, how do you basically figure out what game should we prototype? What game should we actually, build? How do you come up with like good creative ideas and, when to kill them or not?
Well, for us, we have like an idea that we never do clones, like typical clones, and we always try to do more or less unique games. And when we started to work on a new game, right now we have like 2 games in development, one on MVP stage and another one is like more earlier stage. We spent a lot of time for R&D. The last time it was, I don't remember exactly, maybe 6 months we spent on R&D phase. And how it works, we just have like a couple of game designers, like I don't remember exactly, like say 4 or 5 game designers in the company, and all the rest people, around 40 people in total. And we make a lot of fast prototypes based on some blend of ideas of the core gameplay and market vision. So we come to the market and see, okay, we think that this particular genre could be successful on the market in the next year or 2. Okay, so we select, or maybe we just say we are like strategists and we expert in strategies. It seems the strategy could be okay. So we selected the genre. The second thing, we see a lot of competitors, search for a lot of competitors in this genre all over the market, and take the best and worst things in their gameplays. And the third part, we are trying to pull all the best things together from like the competitors and get rid from all the bad things. And this is how the brainstorm started. So we come with like thousands of ideas and we discuss them. And out of these thousands, we filter 3, 4 ideas. We do prototypes. These prototypes should be done in very, very rapid way. And then all the code and everything will go to the junk, and the game will be recreated. So the goal of prototype is to show the core gameplay itself. Usually we spend from 5 to maybe 10 days to create the complete prototype of the game that could be playable online with another people to understand, because making an AI is pretty difficult, and stupid AI could ruin the good gameplay. So all the games are building to be able to play PvP. And when we have several prototypes, well, before the COVID, we can meet in the room, but right now, like, we have a call and play these games all together, give feedback, and understands what is bad, what is good. Sometimes all these prototypes go to the junk. Sometimes we selected one of them, and having like from everyone have ideas to what to add and or to remove. So this iteration is usually like 4 iterations. And on the 4th iteration, let's say, we can have 2 or maybe 3 prototypes that are winners. With these prototypes, we go to the whole company, and with whole company, we usually do another iteration, and then starts friends and family phase. And if friends and family phase also say that it's pretty okay, for the last game, we go to streamers, because we got a lot of streamers of Mushroom Wars, and we thought, yeah, why not? So we gave this prototype based without any art, based on blocks, you know,
wow.
to streamers, and we go and play with them in these games on their stream. So we got instant feedback from the audience of the streamers and from the streamer itself, which are not developers. And this is pretty important, to get feedback from non-developers.
Did some of them actually find the block-based games actually interesting and fun?
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
If
Wow.
well, a streamer understands that it's prototype. They are pretty curious and patient to play the prototype because they want to be part of the development process.
Yeah.
It's value for them. So they understand that they're playing prototype, and we got a lot of valuable feedback from these tests. And this sort of community-driven development. So and then you start to bring this game again and again on the later stage of development and play it with streamers again. For us, it was easier because we got already a community of players and streamers. If you're like unknown developer, it's harder, but I think still there are resources where you can show your game, like even each IO, something like this, when the early prototype could be shown to some audience.
That's great.
Basically, only players can say if the game is good. If the reception is good, well, you can continue. And the next step is to measure retention and all this stuff. But yeah, the prototype phase is like this.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Cool. Well, I have one final question because we are on the Mastering Retention podcast, and that is, what's one tip or trick or lesson you've learned over the years to, improve player retention? How do you keep your players playing back, coming back for more each day, week, month, ideally, year after year?
Well, I think that the retention driver, first of all, is core gameplay itself. And if the core gameplay can suck you in, everything would be fine. The problem is that there are a lot of core gameplays that can suck player in, especially in hyper casual games, but they don't have any deep enough. So still, this magic phrase, easy to learn, hard to master, rules the market. The games that have gameplay easy to learn and hard to master with competitive PvP, basically these sort of games could have excellent rotation by their own, without any addition of like meta gameplay features or something like this.
That's great. I love it. Well, Andrey, thank you so much for joining us. If people do have any questions for you, is there a good way for them to get in contact with you?
Well, I think everyone can message me on Twitter. I'm pretty open there.
Awesome. Love it. All right. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye-bye.